Hey everybody, I'm MichaelBtheGameGenie, and today on Video Game Nostalgia, we're going to be talking about some really bad NES games.
Goodbye.
So today guys, I wanted to take a minute to talk about some really bad NES games. For those of you who watch my channel for a while now, you know I like to give some of the games that other people think are the absolute worst the benefit of the doubt. I actually turn around and like these games, and some of them are my absolute favorites. But there's some games not even I can say are good. And I want to talk about some of those games today. These aren't just games that are bad because of one specific, design mechanic or controls, music, graphics. These are just games that are completely unenjoyable, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute when we go to our first game.
While most people will immediately say, what about the first game? Well, I kinda like it, moles and all. Which is why I find it so interesting to do a list like this, because I can see past most flaws. Back to the Future 2 and 3, on the other hand, has absolutely no redeeming qualities in my mind. I will start with a quick story and say that my initial experience was horrible because we rented it for a sleepover the first time I played it, and I got massively sick that night and my parents had to come pick me up early. I would like to say it was a food allergy, but it was more than likely the game. Just kidding, but I'm sure that played a part in my illness. I honestly do not know what they were going with here. Instead of just making a standard action platformer, they decided to get creative and make something which can only be described as a confusing and unplayable mess. I mean, where do I even start trying to explain this thing? The game starts you out in the dystopian 1985 where Biff runs the casino. You are tasked with finding artifacts by completing minigames and then matching them with the corresponding item in that time period. Once you find the correct period, you also need to find the secret passageway that lets you deposit the item, but only after scrambling the word to match the corresponding item. Match the wrong item with the wrong passageway or time and the item disappears from your inventory screen, and you have to go back and get it again. To top that off, before you can even enter the secret passageway, you need to collect a key. The keys are found by dispatching random enemies in the platforming stages. Once you master the tricky attacking, you jump on the enemy's head and a key will fly out. And I mean fly out. If you aren't quick enough, you will miss it as it goes off screen and you will need to exit that area and return to do it over again, and this time hopefully catch the key. Once you have recovered all the artifacts and returned them to their appropriate time, you beat the first half of the game, which I will never do because I do not have the will or determination to do it, but if you want to see the second half of the game you can input a password. That is also jumbled. So far I have spent a great deal of time just describing the concept of the game, and what's frustrating is that it has taken me 20 years just to understand this much. Think about, as a kid, trying to pull all these parts together and enjoy a game based on his favorite movie franchise of all time. You need Nintendo Power, the Nintendo Hotline, and the creators of the game just to come over to help you understand what the hell you are playing. Well, at least it plays well, right? No, they couldn't even do that competently. The controls are floaty and terrible, the graphics are awful with a color palette that is vomit-inducing, and after 20 minutes of playing this game and listening to the music, you'll never want to hear it again. To say that it is somewhat easy to get lost is an understatement. I have no idea how any of the paths branch on the overworld and aimlessly walk around until I see something that resembles something I saw before and hope for the best. People complain about getting lost in Friday the 13th, but I mean at least that game had a map, and it makes navigation in that game look like a single-screen Atari game compared to this nightmare. I will say at least they included the Back in Time theme for the intro screen, and some of the cutscene visuals are pretty nice, but otherwise, this game is one of the absolute worst games I've ever played on the NES. I hope I never have to talk about it again. This one makes me sad to include because I think there is some fun to be had, but just not enough, and especially seeing the source material the game is based on. Simply put, this is more of a driving simulator, with elements of Ghostbusters added in, than a Ghostbusters game, and again a design decision that will leave you just scratching your head. So the game starts out on an overview of the city, and you are represented by the Ghostbusters symbol as your avatar. Of course, the game, like all bad games, starts out with little to no clear direction, and you are just sitting on the screen as ghosts move to the middle. You notice a building blinking, so you move your avatar towards the blinking building and press the action button. It won't let you enter, and you receive your first piece of instruction that you need a beam first. So if you were smart enough to put it together, you need to make a trip to the shop and buy a beam. Move your avatar to the shop icon and press the action button, and it's time to bust some ghosts. No, apparently you need to complete a driving section, and welcome to the majority of this game. So the driving section isn't bad, it's just kinda boring. You drive along and avoid oncoming traffic, which you have to avoid or you will lose money, which is how you actually lose the game. No money, no joy. As you move along the driving stage, you will also notice your gas tank decreases rapidly. This is the real enemy of the game because if your gas runs out before you reach your destination, your avatar will be moved on the map to the gas station and you will have to pay to refuel. Also, you will start from scratch on the driving stage you were just on. There are oil barrels peppered throughout the driving stages which will prevent this from happening, but honestly they are easy to miss and you will end up making several trips to the gas station. So when you finally make it to the store and buy your beam, then it's time to finally bust some ghosts. So move your avatar to the next blinking location and... more instruction. Turns out you also need to buy a trap. So head back to the store, do the driving stage, run out of gas, head back to the store and buy your trap. Now we finally get to bust some ghosts, and well, it's pretty underwhelming. In fact, it looks like shit and doesn't play much better. After trapping some ghosts, you do get some money, so the game can continue, so let's go bust some more. Nope. Unfortunately, your trap is full, and you will need to offload it at Ghostbusters HQ. So after another driving stage, you offload your trap and can repeat the process. Again, and again, and again. Basically, it just becomes really repetitive at this point, and I lose all interest, not that I had much to begin with. And that is all Ghostbusters really is. If you are looking for a game that emphasizes fiscal responsibility, road safety, and working an exterminator job to pay the bills for the first two, this is the game for you. But if you wanted a fun game like an action platformer or something that better represents the franchise it's based on, you can see why this game made this list. Well, even after all my warning, if you are still interested in this game as it is, at least play it on the Sega Master System. This is the only game on this list I never played as a kid. In fact, it was much later into my attempt to collect a complete NES collection before I had the misfortune of finally laying my hands on Swamp Thing on the NES. Unlike the other games I've mentioned here today, this game is a straightforward action platformer, so I should like it based on my tastes I have shown here on YouTube over the years. It's just that it's just so goddamn bad. I mean, literally, this game is awful. Before I even begin trying to describe how or what this game is, I want you to know shortly after I played it for the first time, I suggested to my friend Matt, better known as the LJN Defender, that he should try it out for his show, Innocent Until Proven Guilty. And it broke him. Matt is like me, but even he gets more enjoyment out of games most people consider to be bad than even I do, but not this one, no sir. One thing to be clear on is the box art is awesome. Really awesome, and no game with this badass box art should be, well, this bad. I will start with how you move and attack, and let's just say slow is an understatement. If the design concept was to make the character constantly seem like they were trudging through sludge, well then, mission accomplished. The enemies move so much faster than you, and your jump is pathetic, so it makes the concept of platforming through the stage frustrating. Some would call it hard, but no, it's more frustrating because of the choice with the controls, and usually that doesn't bother me as I can easily overcome poor controls if there is some value to the game, but I just don't see it here. You start out with a limited number of hits per life, but can increase them by collecting health items that will increase the number of hits you can take as well as replenish your health, which is a good thing because you will get hit a ton playing this game, no matter how good you get at it. There are checkpoints depending on how far you get in each stage, but no continues on the checkpoints, so if you lose all your lives, it's back to the beginning of the game. Graphically, it's an absolute mess. It's another one of these games that when they selected the color palette, they must have researched nausea-inducing, because the colors do not go well together and make it extremely hard to look at the screen. Not to mention, everything is extremely dark and it makes it hard to see enemies or obstacles approaching, when paired with the already awful controls doesn't do anything to improve the experience. The cutscene in the beginning are a pretty good example of how the game is going to perform graphically, as they are just bad. Poorly drawn, and with the same mismatchy and dreary color choices representative of the rest of the game. The music is dread-inducing. It's not terrible, but it certainly doesn't do anything to speed up or brighten up this slow and dreary NES game. I can't get very far in this one to tell you if the game improves, as it isn't good enough to get that get-good mentality to overcome the frustrating controls and difficulty, and have only ever been off the first stage a handful of times. Really, I don't even know if I can articulate to you just how bad this game is. It's one of those bad NES games that you just truly have to play yourself. The only question I am left with is how hasn't the angry video game nerd covered this one yet?
So guys, those are just some games that I think are really, really bad NES games. This is a fun topic for me to actually go over, because sometimes you come across games that you think people don't see really how to play it or that it's enjoyable. But there's some games that, whether it's been ever since I've been a child, or you just come across them and you know right off the bat, this is terrible, that these are really bad games, and it's fun that I finally got a chance to talk about them today. So what I'd like for you guys to do, let me know if you agree, if you think these are really bad NES games, or do you think that these games are pretty good? Let me know. Otherwise, I plan on doing another video like this somewhere down the line. Here's looking at you, Uncanny X-Men. So if you guys have any other games that you think are absolutely wretched, really, really bad NES games, you'd like to see them included in the next video I do, let me know in the comments down below. And once again, thank you for sharing in my video game nostalgia.
Hey there! Thank you for making it to the very end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, why don't you check out one of the other videos shown here? If you really enjoyed the video, you can even subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, if you really, really enjoyed the video, feel free to check out my Patreon. It would be appreciated.